we're going to talk about the first digital tool, and that is going to be our Fronius Solar.web. This tool is our all-in-one encompassed monitoring platform with efficient O&M management that allows you to proactively gain notifications and service messages if your system needs your attention at all. It offers remote system diagnostics and troubleshooting capabilities, as well as remote software updates that can be done remotely, which is the great thing. This monitoring platform can possibly prevent a truck roll out to the system. Now, in the case that you are monitoring multiple systems, this is your one monitoring platform to go to. If you're an installer and you're installing multiple PV systems and you have them all online, you can actually view all your systems with one click. So here's an example of the type of data you're going to get, but I'd like to hold off on fully explaining this and allow one of my colleagues here, Chad Ramirez again, our applications engineer, to show us where the value is within Solar.web and how can we utilize it in our day-to-day activities, as well as how to utilize the data for troubleshooting. Of course, we're going to get a comprehensive energy monitoring that comes with the monitoring platform. You're going to be able to look at your production and consumption if you have your consumption meter installed. And we do offer several different granularities of production, so you can see it over daily, monthly, and yearly totals across the system's entire run duration.
So this is going to be the first screen that you see when you pull Solar.web up. So the first thing you're going to want to do here is go up to Login. That's going to take you to the screen here. So you can type in your username, or you can register here if you don't have an account. But for me, I'm an employee, so I'm just going to click this For Employees button here. So this is going to be kind of the fleet overview. So this is a really cool screen that you will see when you have multiple PV systems that you monitor. So as installers, you guys are going to be installing Fronius inverters and hopefully getting them online. And as the installer, you'll be able to monitor each one of your customers' systems and get kind of a good overview on this screen of what's going on with them. So we'll just kind of go through what you're looking at. So here you can see the total power of all the systems, the amount of PV systems that you have that are online, the total production for those, as well as the total estimated earnings that are based on different settings that you can set on the PV systems themselves. And so if you look down here, you'll see that I currently have two different systems that I monitor. So if you have multiple systems, the screen will just keep going on. It might change a little format, how it looks. You can adjust that with this option here. But you can see here there's two options. So we'll also look at this little tab here. This is PV system comparison. So you can kind of compare the two systems together. As you can see, one of the systems that I monitor is a smaller residential, and the other one is a larger commercial. So the comparison isn't too good here, but if you have multiple sites, you'll be able to kind of compare all those together. Well, with the message center, you're able to see the different error codes that your system's seeing across all of your sites. But we'll go into that on one of the sites specifically. So let's go ahead and let's click on this portage location. This is actually the Fronius US headquarters here, where we do some testing on the units. And we'll kind of see what this looks like here on this screen. So as you can see, when you click on one of the sites, you're greeted with this overview screen here, where you can see a bunch of different information. So as you can see, this is the current power. So this is what your system as a whole is producing. So this site has 8 inverters total. So this is the total combined power of those 8 inverters. And then we have energy balance today. This is where you'll see your nice bell curve of your production. So this might look a little bit different if you have no clouds that day, or shading that day. This looks like the system came online about 7 a.m., 6:50. And this will continue on throughout the day. Now, these values are updated in just about real time. There is a little bit of a delay from the inverter to the system, but it is pretty accurate for what the unit's producing. And if the system was offline, you would see that this is offline here, and it'll give you some type of messaging showing you that. We also have this earnings tab here, which you can kind of click through. It'll go through on its own. These are an estimate of how much you've saved with the system based on different estimate values that we can set later in the settings. And then we have a CO2 savings total here. This is also based on some different settings that you can change later. Here you can upload a picture of your site. So if you want to get a picture after your install, maybe showing the inverters or the roof, you can add that here and it'll show as well on the overview screen when you have multiple systems. And here you can also see that we have kind of a weather forecast. So as you can see, today is going to be mostly sunny, so that production should be looking good, whereas Wednesday or Thursday might be a little bit low because it looks to be cloudy and rainy. So this is kind of good where you can see the things. But we'll go here and we'll jump to this analysis tab. So if you actually click on current power, it'll take you right there. So we'll just do that. And underneath this analysis tab, we'll see a new menu here with a breakdown of the real-time data. So as you can see, these are all the systems here. Looks like you might have one that's offline, but these are all the inverters and kind of what they're producing currently. So if you want to see a breakdown of what each system's doing individually, you can see that right here. So you might be wondering why they have different colors. So Solar.web actually breaks down the optimal performance ranges and the deviation from the optimal performance range. So if it was in green like this one, it is within optimal performance. And if it is going down to a yellow color, it might be a 10 to 50% deviation from optimal performance. And then if it's showing up as red, that's more than a 50% deviation from optimal performance. So this is something to keep in mind when you're looking at this. If it's, a bright sunny day and you're 100% sure of that, and the units are not within green, there could be something going on. Maybe it's dropped a string or there's some type of production issue that you can keep an eye on. And here on the left side, you can also see all the data sources that are attached to this site. Like Paul was mentioning, you get one of these when you set up a data manager card on the inverter. Next thing we can do here is jump to the history tab. So this is a cool one where you can actually break down a lot of the different values that the system's seeing. So here you can see all the inverters. We'll go ahead and we'll keep inverter 5 on there, and then we'll maybe select inverter 3. And then this is the cool tab here where you can break down a bunch of different values here. So you can see we have apparent power, current for AC, current for DC, the power factor, the power on tracker 1, tracker 2, reactive power, and so on. These are a lot of different features here that we have available, and there's also some specific ones for me. But let's go ahead and let's just compare the voltage on tracker 1 with the voltage on tracker 2. And you can just hit OK. And then that's going to update here with this new graph. So as you can see, this is going to break down the 4 values of the voltage on tracker 1, tracker 2, for inverter 3, and inverter 5. And you can see those values update right here as you go through. So this is really cool if maybe your system's not producing as much as you want. You can kind of go here to these channels and do some investigating yourself without even going to site. So if you want to see maybe, is the system getting DC voltage? Is it getting AC voltage? What's your current looking like? Because if your system's producing maybe a little bit less than normal, one of the big things is your current coming in. So you can compare the current with one of the other systems. So, we can see that these systems are pretty similar in the amount of current that they're seeing. But if, inverter 5 was at 5 amps instead of 9 amps, that might be something to look into. So this is really cool. Like I said, there's a lot of different options here, a lot of things you can play around with. But that's just kind of a good overview of what you're seeing. And then like Paul mentioned, there is the simulations tab that will be used more, but this is where you can kind of simulate some different things, whether that's heating or storage. So this is another thing with Fronius being future proof. We're going to have a lot of different functions here that you guys will be able to see when those products come out or are synced with Solar.web. So that was the analysis tab. We'll go ahead and we'll jump to this energy balance tab. So this is where you can kind of see a bigger version of that bell curve that you had. This gets a little bit more interesting when you have a smart meter, and I'll show that after. And you can also break down the consumption for how much you're consuming here. But like I said, this gets a little bit more interesting when you are having a smart meter on the site. You can break down what you're looking at by day, month, year in total. You can go back and see that the production for the entire month if you want to do that. Break it down by year or by total and see kind of how much it has over the system's lifespan. And that goes as well for the analysis tab and the history, where you can view stuff from 5 days ago, 10 days ago, 3 weeks ago, a month ago. You can kind of view all that information there. Now, another really cool tab that I want to touch on is the reports tab. So here you can create new reports that will send to your email. So if you want to track specific things, you can do that right through this interface. So as you can see here, there are already a few created reports that we use, but I'm going to click right here and show you kind of what it looks like. So you can create any type of report here. The most common one is just the PV production. So if you need to submit that, maybe SRAX or something like that, you can get that here. There is also a SolarWeb Premium feature, which allows you to kind of customize what that report is going to be. So you can select the file format here, select what the data source is, so whether it's detailed values or the daily sum. We'll go ahead and select detailed values here, and then you can select the report names, what you want it to be called, the generation type, whether it's going to be manual, so if you want to set in like time ranges or anything like that for it to go out, you can do that, or you can leave it on automatic. You can set that time range here, and then you kind of have similar channels to what we saw in the analysis and history tab. So if you just wanted to track the current on MPP1, you could do that here. If you wanted to check, any of these other values, the voltage, anything like that, you can do that through here and then generate that report. And then it's going to send out to your email in whatever format you want. Directly to you, and you can set up multiple people to receive these reports. This is a really cool thing if you want to keep track of specific sites and specific information without having to pull the site up constantly and taking a look. So go back here. And the last one is going to be what I think is going to be most interesting to you guys, is the service messages tab. So this is where it's going to break down all the different error codes that the inverter has seen. So if the unit is displaying error codes and the system is online and it's able to catch that, it's going to report it here. So the reason why I wanted to use this site is it does look like we have a few different errors here for the testing purposes for these. So as you can see on the 23rd, the system for inverter 1 was giving off a 509, which is no feed in for 24 hours. It also looks like all the way back on the 18th, it was giving a 240, which is an arc detected. So with these, as the system sees these error codes, you are going to get notifications telling you that the unit is seeing this error. So you'll be able to do some really good proactive maintenance if you get a report that your customer system has an error. You'd be able to pull up SolarWeb, check, do some investigating with the analysis tab, and see kind of what's going on and see what different errors it's showing here. And you can break this down by custom range, last 30 days, this month, last month, and you can really keep track of what you're seeing here. Now, there is some other tabs here. There's a news tab here where we'll display some news, as well as system messages. So this is like if you give rights to anyone, if it has any maintenance done on it, you can see that here. But the main thing is going to be this service messages tab here, where you guys can really break down what you're seeing. So I'll also show off some of these settings that you have. So the profile here is just kind of where you update some of the profile information. So system name, time zone, the currency that you want it to be showing in, the CO2 factor, the offset earnings. These will kind of affect some of the images in the earnings tab that we saw earlier. You can set the installation date here as well as the location of it, and this will affect the weather broadcast that you get in the bottom right corner. This tab here is where you can select an image to upload. So this is really good if you have multiple sites. Like I said, on the fleet page, you can change the view and kind of at a glance see all the different sites. So putting up an image might be good to help you identify it a little bit quicker. The contacts tab is really cool. You can set different contacts to receive certain messages. So this is going to be a little bit different than this permissions tab, but has some similar settings. So say you have maybe some people in your company that want to get specific reports or want to receive service messages for this, but don't really need access to view the system, or they're not going to be pulling it up often. You can set those here, and you can set them to receive reports or receive service messages, and you would just put their email in here. And they don't have to have a SolarWeb account to do this. This is just a email that'll go directly to them. So this components tab here is also really cool. This is where you can see kind of a breakdown of all the different devices and components on the site. So here you'll see we have all the different data source IDs for the site. As you can see, there's quite a few of them. And then we also have what data source type is. So this would be a data manager. The specific IP address for that data manager, when it was active until. And then you can also do software updates directly through SolarWeb. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with this, as during troubleshooting, sometimes we have you do updates. So this is where we do it on our end. You can do this as well. You just have to have access to the site. And if we go down, we can also see the breakdown of the inverters. As you can see the serial number for these if they are active, the type that it is. So these are SIMO advanced, the data source that is attached to that particular inverter, the WP values that were set for the size, as well as if you want it to be visible or not, the active until, and then you can do software updates directly through SolarWeb as well for the inverter and for the data manager. So to be able to do that, you would just hit select all and then update, and it'll have you confirm. I'm going to leave these unupdated just because these are used for testing purposes. So that's a really cool feature here that I think will also be really useful to you guys. We also have the permissions feature. So this is where you can give our 3 different permission categories to either yourselves or different installers or customers. So we have a guest, supervisor, and owner right that you can grant here. So the guest can see some limited information. They can't change any settings. This is really good for homeowners if you don't want them adjusting anything on there. They can see about a week's worth of history. So if they just want to keep tabs on what they're producing, that's a really good one for it. Supervisor has a lot more permissions. They can adjust settings, change different values. They can view the entire system's history. This is really what you guys are going to want to be, so you can properly maintain the system. And then we have the ownership right, which can delete supervisors, delete guests, delete the site, and they basically have the similar roles as the supervisor. They can just remove people and delete the site. So as you can see here, there's a handful of different supervisors and guests. You can add those here. They do need to have a Solar.web account created before they can have rights. So if you're giving rights to like a homeowner or anyone like that, you do want to make sure that you have them create a Solar.web account first. And then once they have one and they've confirmed their email, then you can send them this. And so you'll just put in their email address, confirm email, select what right you want to do, and then it's going to send them a invitation to view the site. So that's where you would see these invites here and the status of them. If they've been accepted or if they're still waiting to be accepted, you can see that here. Now the tariff screen is where you can adjust different tariff values for that. These are going to affect some of the earnings tabs that you were looking at earlier. If you wanted to add those, you could do that here for what particular inverter. And then you can also edit what we have in here. I'm just going to leave these as they are set up that way for a reason. Then we have service messages here. So this is a cool tab where you can kind of edit the service messages that Solar.web gives out. So there are some main ones here, whether it's a blackout detection or an inverter blackout detection. As you can see, you can set it to receive these service messages. The blackout is when it's not receiving any notifications from the data manager to Solar.web. And then the inverter blackout detection span is for connection to the inverter. So you can change the frequency of that here if you want to have it, for 24 hours off, 36 hours, 48 hours before it sends that message. You can change those values here. And then we have a change owner tab where you can change the owner of the site. This is done pretty rarely. The only one who can really do this is the current owner of the site or someone on tech support's end, but we usually want the owner to take care of that, as things can get a little bit hairy when you're changing owners without permission. So you can just do that here. It works pretty much the same as the permissions, where they will receive an invite to view the site. And then lastly, we have this delete tab here, where if you did want to delete a PV system for whatever reason, maybe you made it by accident or something like that, or it's no longer there, you can delete that here. So that's a lot of the features here. I do want to go back and touch on some of the smart meter options, as Paul was talking about that. So this is a cool one here. This is what the site's going to look like when you have a smart meter attached to it and connected to Solar.web. So it kind of breaks down what the site's producing, what it's consuming, and what it's sending to the grid. So you can see all those here, and it kind of gives a good little graphic of what's going on. So as you can see, this is pretty early for this location, might not be producing anything yet, or maybe it's really cloudy there, but you can kind of see that here. And I'm going to click on this energy balance, and you can kind of see what I was talking about and how this looks different. So you can see the blue line is your consumption, the yellow is consumed directly, and the gray is power to grid. So you can kind of view those values here and what it's doing throughout the day. So as you can see, it is using up power throughout the night. And then as we start to produce some stuff, we can see here that the power that we're sending to the grid and the power that's being consumed. So it looks like this is covering what the house has and sending that excess power to the grid. So you can kind of view that here, and you can kind of break it down, like I was saying, over all these different categories. And then you can see the actual energy meter here as well. So yeah, this is really cool features that I hope you guys will use. Like I said, talking with you guys on the phone as a tech support representative, I know a lot of this stuff is going to be useful for you guys. I did also want to mention you can register your products here. I think Paul's going to talk about it a little bit at the end of the presentation, but you can register your products here through Solar.web. I believe we're going to share you with a QR code, or if not, you can always pull up Solar.web and do that here and reset your warranty back to the original start date. So this is what we'll use to kind of update it in our system. And another thing I want to mention, all of these features and viewing service messages, things like that, we do have a Solar.web app that you can download as well and use in the field. You might not be able to get as detailed as you can on the website, but it still is really good to kind of view your sites and to see what you're producing.